George has two kids.
5 seconds.
Has one.
So we're ready when you are, Larry.
We are ready. I'm
All
tired
right.
today too. I have so much fun.
So please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we have announcements. The bond referendum information open houses. There was one actually on Saturday, which I heard good reviews of. There's another one coming up on Wednesday, the 18th. That's this Wednesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. here at Village Hall. There's also Harvest Hayride on Saturday, October 21st from 5:30 to 8:30 at Mountain Park. There's window decorating for 1st to 8th graders on Saturday, October 28th from 9:30 to 1 p.m. The Halloween parade is on Sunday, October 29th. The parade kicks off at 3:15 sharp from Immaculate Conception Church parking lot. Election Day is November 7th, 2023. The Peter Holy Turkey Trot is on Sunday, November 19th, 2023 at 2 p.m. at Dow's Lane. And the upcoming ban on gas-powered leaf blowers is going into effect December 16th, 2023 if no action is taken by this board. Anybody else have any other announcements?
I'll add to Halloween that between 5 and 10 p.m. in the village on Halloween, there'll be 13 different bands playing. I'm not sure of the range, but it's pretty much from, I think, Dutcher is probably the furthest south. I don't know if anyone's on Continent. Maybe someone's on Continent. And up to Village Hall. There might be also one band playing up at the property closer to Main Street, but I'm not sure about that. But it's come, walk around, see the music. There's be more than one band playing at a time up until 8 o'clock. So
It should be great as always.
Yeah.
I forgot we're not meeting again until Halloween.
that's why I mentioned
Yeah. So we had 2 pieces of correspondence. One was from Viola Speck. Dear Village of Irvington Administration, Mayor, Board of Trustees, landscapers who work in the village, DPW, police, and the entire community. I'm writing to affirm my appreciation for the important step we have taken to implement a full ban of the use of gas-powered leaf blowers in our community. I'm glad that landscape workers, our community, soil health, and other living things will no longer be subject to the pollution, particulate matter, and loud noise emitted from gas-powered leaf blowers. I'm glad that the time was given for landscape workers, residents, and municipal workers to adjust to using rakes, brooms, and/or electric blowers for the community to change the perception that fallen leaves are unsightly. Glad that children now have more of a chance to delight in fallen leaves. Our soil will be nourished and regenerated by more people mulching their lawn, leaving them in place, moving garden beds, and yard waste pile for decomposition. These are actually many benefits that leaves are designed in nature to do, practices you need to get back to. More information on the Love 'em and Leave 'em, which is www.leleny.com. Our village has been more quiet, more peaceful, giving us a chance to hear birds more, children playing, ease of talking and enjoying the time outdoors with friends, neighbors, and family. As a steering committee member of the Irvington Green Policy Task Force, I'm proud and thrilled when people from other community conservation corps say that their community would like to implement a blower ban and ask how we did it, and ask for our legislation to use as a model. Gas-powered leaf blowers are not needed before they were invented for larger properties such as Half Moon, and now we are more and more keenly aware of the need to stop polluting, degenerating the earth upon which we depend. Our gas leaf blower ban is one of the most important steps our and other communities need to take for livable earth in the future. Thank you, Village of Irvington, for implementing and enforcing the essential piece of legislation. And that's from the OSPEC. The next one is from Josh Keller. I was not aware that the issue of the impending December 16, 2023 ban on leaf blowers is up for discussion on October 2nd. Please consider my opinion regardless. The use of gas leaf blowers had more than 3 years since the passing of Chapter 148, subsection B10, restricting and ultimately banning gas-powered leaf blowers to replace their equipment. That was a generous amount of time to make the change. I beg the board not to amend the law or extend the ban deadline. The ban should also be enforced for larger properties like Irvington Estates. Even though Irvington Estates property is larger than mine, per resident, my property is far larger. Yet I do my own yard work whenever I use a gas-powered leaf blower. Irvington Estates has been the worst offender and frequent violator of our present rules. Do not let large properties off the hook. They are adjacent to smaller properties. Why should owners of smaller properties suffer because large properties want to save a few dollars? It is important to have banned these foul, polluting, noisy menaces. We all live in close proximity in this town. Nobody should have to put up with that any longer. Enforce the present law. Many thanks, Josh Keller, 1917. That was it for correspondence. Public comments. Anybody at home there?
Yes.
Okay, great.
One.
Felix.
Hey, Brian. Hey, everyone. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, it's volume's on.
How are you, Felix?
Good. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me now?
Looks like it's
How about now?
yellow. Maybe it's kind of tall.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna try to log back in.
Okay,
If he shows back up,
perfect.
I'll let you know.
We can
So,
always cut back in.
yeah, I don't think anything's wrong, but it's hard to tell. I'm muted.
I go to the consent agenda while he tries to log back in, but anyone have any questions?
He's here if you want to try again.
Sure. Hey, Felix.
Sorry. Hey, can you guys hear me now?
We're still not getting you.
It's nice and yellow too, like he was talking.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, no.
Let's put him up here.
What they do in Ardford.
Yeah, you do that, Arisa?
Well, I've done that for a million years. Yeah, people phoned in, it's an open line.
That's so funny.
So
It's
they
really
can
fun.
hear him on the call,
Oh, interesting.
but we can't hear him.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I like dial in, or there's like some kind of crazy feedback, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there a way you can type his question into the Q&A?
Yeah, I certainly could. Let me see if we did. Oh, here we go. All right, hold on.
Running after all that, it's like, great job.
Usually not. We can dream. That's always has good questions though.
Oh, that's funny. They said they can hear him at home.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
So it's something with the speakers here, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's gonna write it up. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know why. That's been rock solid. It's been working all along.
Yeah, technology always has hiccups.
Yeah,
It's the way it is.
yeah, exactly. That's a shame. Do you want to wait or do you want to move on? You know,
You know what, let me do the consent agenda, because does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, that's a lot of time. The next item is the discussion of upcoming firehouse municipal complex bond referendum.
Well, that's gonna be hard if we can't hear anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Assuming that people want to talk.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. We will certainly take comments by,
How many people are logged in?
8.
Oh, okay, so it's a fair amount.
So if there's, yeah, I mean, any questions, obviously, we'll,
Press.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, look, if questions get submitted, I'll bring them up. And,
Yeah, that's a
you know,
good idea.
even if I have to interrupt what you might be working on, but,
I think, it's better if the questions could be together because they build on each other.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we can just take a minute to let the questions,
If there
are
are
people
questions.
typing questions or no?
Not yet, but
No.
maybe they are. I can't see like who's typing.
Right. But I mean, you
But
don't.
nothing's
have
been
any-
submitted yet, no.
Nothing is done yet.
Should we log in? Should I log in? I mean, maybe we can hear people.
There's a pretty big delay though.
Okay.
Yeah,
From what they're, because they're able to hear at home.
right.
Yeah, one of us can log into the meeting.
I mean, I can try it here and see what happens. Figure out what's gonna give feedback and what isn't.
That's right, or to mine sounds like when I'm hungry.
I guess I don't think I was, but probably.
I didn't really eat dinner, which is rare for me before.
Maybe use my personal email address, because otherwise it'll put me as a panelist too. Wait, all right, so where's that coming from?
Almost afraid
I don't know where to do this. Yeah, I don't know, because it's gonna feed back. So.
The only thing I can think of is if someone sits like in the corner of the room away from the mic, so.
Right.
And then kind of repeats the question in the room. I mean, I'll take my computer over there, but I'll.
Yeah, maybe they can type the
Just
question.
type
Yeah,
the
what-
question, I mean.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to settle on typing for
Okay.
typing
We'll
the
start with
question at
that.
this point,
Yeah.
because it's, yeah.
So,
Yeah, so, I mean, to me, the biggest thing is that we have another open house on Wednesday at 7 PM here at Village Hall. And secondly, the website, which is Irvington Bond
Irvington
Vote,
Bond Vote, yeah.
irvingtonbondvote.com.
Yep.
That has all the information that we have. We try to share it, any updates, we share it there immediately. So I spent some time on that the other day, and I thought it was super helpful. Again, we feel that this proposal solves a lot of issues, building related issues that the village has been dealing with for often decades. It's also the most expensive municipal project that we've ever proposed here in Irvington. So it's kind of those are the two ends of the that need to be balanced. And does it make sense to you? Again, I don't think this is a rah-rah board. We think it's a very good project, or we obviously wouldn't have proposed it. But it's also very expensive. So we want people to come up with their own conclusions. We think that we've kind of presented the worst case scenario from a financial perspective. Again, the 18.2 million doesn't include any grants that we might receive, which we think will be able to qualify for quite a few. It also doesn't take into consideration using any surplus funds that the village has built up over the years, which we also probably will do to keep the costs down. But we'd like to present the biggest cost possible, because we think that's what's responsible. I think the only thing that probably isn't captured in some of our initial estimates were the changes in interest rates, because they go up kind of every week now. One of the things I'd like to point out about that is while they've been going up recently, if you look at, say, what the equity markets are pricing in for next year, they think they're actually going to come back down some. We don't have to bond the entire 18.2 million immediately. In fact, we won't. We do it over phases. So we wouldn't be locking in kind of the all-time highs. If we did happen to, say, lock in a 5.5% rate and then they fell dramatically, we could also look to potentially refinance. It's not out of the question. So the financing piece, obviously, it would have been great if this was 5 years ago and it was almost zero to borrow, but that's not the case. And we can't just always wait for the best financial time, because there's never really a perfect time. I think the last important thing I'd like to add is when you look at the renderings really are a conceptual drawing. The details of most of the entranceway, that's probably the thing that I've kind of gotten the most pushback on, is the municipal building part, not so much the fire department part, but the municipal part that's down the hill a bit, closer to the Hudson, more west. It kind of looks high and looming because they kind of made it flat. So a lot of people think it's just not visually attractive. Those are types of things that could be tweaked. That isn't like the final plan. That's a conceptual drawing of what it might look like. So I think there's ways to add some greenery and make it more welcoming to the community, with some creativity. So While, yes, you can look at the renderings, to me, they're very helpful. It's more the conceptual uses of the building that were kind of really thought out, more so than the external appearance of it. So don't get too caught up in just that. But those are my thoughts. I don't know if anybody has anything else they want to add now, or we can see if anybody has questions. We are going to also have one more meeting, hopefully with a operating Zoom. I guess it's going to be the day before the vote. Is that when that
It
meeting
is, yeah, November 6th.
So,
Which is the next meeting, to be clear, right?
It is,
the
yeah.
next regular meeting. So that'll be, last minute questions for sure. So hopefully people have at least started, or at least gotten the word out. You should have gotten a mailer, and hopefully we come Wednesday to the open house.
I think Larry pointed out something important at the open house, that when you go to the website, there's a link for more materials, and if you click there, it has really granular information. Like if you want to know what's wrong with the room we're sitting in right now, well, here is the audit that was done by, I think it was a federal
New York
agency or
State.
state?
New York State.
State agency,
Yep.
and all the ways it's not compliant. So, and you can see for yourself whether you think it's important to upgrade that or not. And that applies to lots of things. I think, are any of the fire inspection things up there as well, or?
No, there aren't. No, the fire department itself hasn't been audited per se, or, had any type of audit like that.
It's just that they know they're
I
in
have the
compliance.
details, yeah.
Right. But there are a lot of documents like that if you click through. So all the information that we got to see, you can see on the website through that link.
Any questions from the audience here? Or did anybody type anything up at home, or has Felix gotten his original question typed up?
No, he hasn't, but I have one from Nikki Coddington.
Okay.
The concerns I'm hearing are less about the dollars, but more about the appearance and scale and how they affect the look and character of Main Street. Another concern I'm hearing is about whether the theater really needs all that space that will be vacated by the offices. Not so much a question, but just a comment.
Okay. And again, I think my point was kind of that some of that appearance. Yes, it's still going to be a large building. I think you can't get away from that, but I think there are ways to make the entranceway more attractive than that kind of quick conceptual drawing.
That's it, but if any others come up,
Yeah,
I'll let you know,
yeah.
just in light of the.
And I know we have a bunch of people from the housing committee here, so maybe we can move on to that discussion, and then if
I think
if-
she
oh, you
wants
have
to speak about
question
that.
about
So is this time for comment
Yes.
as well?
Go ahead,
Yes.
yep.
Okay.
If you wanted to choose the microphone, yeah, thanks.
So this is my first meeting,
Well,
so
welcome.
Welcome.
Glad you're here.
So you start with your name.
start with my name. Do you want my, okay, Karen Donahue. And I own a historic home in the village. I love it here. It's very amazing. I'm not as much of an old timer as many people have raised their children here and such. I'm relatively new. It's about 8 years. So first of all, I want to thank the trustees for what you do. In my past life, I wasn't a trustee or anything like that, but I was very involved with them, and I know a part of what you do, and I'm just grateful because I know it's a lot, and it's a lot of times thankless, so thank you. And I don't think there's any firemen here, but I thank them too. I know this project is a lot about, in my observation, it's a lot about them, and I appreciate them as well. So regarding the $18 million bond referendum project, I see this as a turning point for the village. And I sort of mentioned that I haven't been here that long, so I kind of maybe have fresher eyes than those that have been here for decades and raised your kids and really rooted in. The plan, oh, here I go. Sorry, my notes, I was in a hurry. I feel like Main Street defines Irvington. It is the only river town where you can walk down Main Street and see this mighty and majestic Hudson River. It's completely unique. I do not know of a village or town anywhere that has this type of character and charm. And I am grateful to the trustees of the past for their thoughtful planning. Whoever designed this town, it was like brilliant, and I appreciate that. I do not view this current plan as keeping in the same character and charm of our village. I see the Main Street as historic. I see it as smaller shops and buildings. I see the homes that are, the buildings that are here. I mean, there's a few bigger, newer buildings sprinkled through, but they're not as massive as what's planned. I feel like it is vital that every new building and renovation on Main Street is in keeping with the charm and existing character of our historic village. This plan, as currently presented, will demolish 2 historic buildings that are listed in the National Historic Register. They were both built in the 1890s. And I just want to close by saying, at the same time, I support assuring that our firemen and other, whatever the town needs, but especially the firemen, have all the resources they need to serve and protect our village. Like, I fully support that. I'm grateful to them. What I don't understand is its current placement, even just as it is, and it's smaller. I don't understand why there's a firehouse on Main Street. I think Main Street's for people to gather, for shops, for children to play, things that are more community oriented. I think vital emergency services like a firehouse could be not on Main Street. So given that, I cannot comprehend how an even larger structure makes any sense and would contribute to this beautiful village and charming village. So thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. I think the only comment I might make to that is that for about 10 years, we've looked for alternate sites and have not found any. So that's,
People say that, but I can see possibilities.
No.
I'd be interested to hear where you've looked.
I would be interested to see your list. Like, I've been saying that to people, like, I'm not asking this rhetorically.
No, I will.
Like,
And I
because
plan
like
to
we've
share
looked
that
at,
with
we've
you.
looked at like on Broadway where Maxon is, but that would start with another $2 million or, $6 million, like whatever the number is to start, just to buy the land. We already have the land here, obviously. Don't want to use any of our park land. We looked at things like right on the Dobbs Ferry border, but then people weren't willing to sell. So there's we've looked at many things, and the fire department's waited probably 50 years for something that's OSHA compliant. So it's like, we could say we're going to try to find that perfect piece of land that's somewhere else, but how long can we have them wait? I think that's part of the issue as well.
I think I will present some ideas, and I'd love to know where you've already looked. So is that available online? I know there's a lot. I haven't looked through it all yet.
There is one of the studies I think had.
Yeah, so-
I think it only mentioned addresses.
Yeah, not to be evasive about or elusive about the answer. The problem is that the places that we have looked are all privately owned. So we've been a little bit reluctant to just throw out there, well, we've looked at that property and that property, and we haven't had direct discussions with those private property owners because the sites never proved to really be feasible.
Yeah.
So but suffice it to say, there were 3 sites and 4, if you count the one that you just mentioned near Dobbs Ferry. There were 4 sites, all of them were located along Broadway, and none of them were economically feasible.
In what way were they not feasible?
If you build a firehouse, it's going to be about the same price. Call it $15 million. So if you first have to buy, say, $2 million worth of land, that's big enough. It's just going to be more expensive. So yeah, assuming that someone wants it, you don't have to go through eminent domain, and then that's going to be obviously legal bills on top of that. So just land acquisition costs are a big part of it.
Is that primarily why it wasn't feasible?
Yes.
Is the money?
Yeah, and some of it too is the reason that it's centrally located is, as you know, the fire department's all volunteer, so they come from all different parts of the village to respond. So if like that was one of the problems with having it, say, on the Dobbs Ferry border, if you have a bunch of people that live in, say, East Irvington or the northern part of town, it's going to hurt response time. So that's kind of why it was originally put in the middle, was because people have to arrive at the firehouse before the fire department can respond. So that was part of it.
Understood. Yeah.
What's fascinating, what I learned when I did a tour of the firehouse when this issue first began, and they offered a tour and I took it immediately. I wanted to see for myself. I believe them, but I think visually to see these things are important. And I don't know, other people might know this and they think I'm dumb, but I did not know this. When there is a fire call, specific people are not called. they put out the call to everyone, there is a fire, and then they wait for people to respond. And I said, well, what happens if nobody responds? And the chief said, there's never a time where nobody responds, right? So people, that's how dedicated are they. You can count on people always coming. So imagine now if it was in a place that wasn't centrally located and you're waiting for people coming from, like Brian said, from one end or the other, it could be really a problem. But I was really impressed with that.
So is there a radius from here that would be acceptable?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes.
Sure there is. Yeah, I wouldn't have the answer right here, but
We'd have to talk to the chief
follow
about
up,
that,
yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, if you have some ideas, feel free to email either
Yeah.
Larry, myself. Or I
Thanks.
think there's a spot on the website as well. I think there's like a link to send questions or something.
Well, yeah, it's me.
Yeah, okay.
I just got the question.
Perfect. Yeah. So you can, if you have some ideas, feel free to share them.
No, I do, I have to do my
Small village.
research.
Sure.
I actually didn't get this flyer, so I didn't know about this until late Friday night,
Okay. Well,
that this was all happening, so,
Surprising, yeah.
it's supposed to have gone to every resident.
Yeah, I mean, we sent
know,
the
I'm
bulk
sure it
mail,
was,
yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I brought it.
Well,
My
thanks for-
boyfriend didn't get it either.
Thanks for
so,
coming,
I
though.
don't know. Anyway, I'm behind. I have to.
No
study
worries, no
harder.
worries. Yeah, the website has a lot of good information.
Yeah, I know.
Looks like there might be something tacked there.
So, yeah, so actually I just forwarded you an email from Felix, and so
Okay.
that's one of the topics that he wanted to cover. The other is leaf blowers, which he may or may not be able to collect his thoughts in time, to send them. But at least, yeah.
So, yeah. So I didn't get it yet. But... You sent it to my Irvington email, right? Oh, there.
I did, yeah.
Nope. Oh, okay. This is from Felix. Dear Mayor Smith, I want to personally thank you for your statement you released last week on terrorism in Israel. We live in a time during which, for some reason, unjustified violence against some groups leaves everyone almost falling over themselves to express their moral outrage, while violence against other groups leads to vague platitudes or equivocation, justification of violence against civilians in the name of solving complicated political and military realities. Your statement was the exact opposite, a clear and unequivocal condemnation of terrorism that made it very obvious where you stood. To say it stood in stark contrast with some of the other public statements issued by some of our leading academic institutions, no less, is an understatement. Please know that as a member of our local Jewish community, it was sincerely appreciated. I've shared it with many of my Jewish friends and family who enjoyed reading it very much. You're welcome, Felix. I think one of the things that was disappointing was it took me a few days to get it done. I think I had hoped to write something earlier, but I didn't appreciate it, discussing it with the board somewhat at our meeting. And then Thursday, I frankly just couldn't get to it from my real job. So it wasn't until Friday. And then Larry was actually in a conference all day, so it didn't even go out till late on Friday. But, someone snarkily put on Facebook, better late than never. I felt it was more appropriate to get it right than to get it out quickly, and to just ask Larry to throw out a kind of generic statement. I wanted to kind of reflect and then have some time to put my thoughts out. So if it was late, I apologize, but it was sincere, and I'm glad you liked it, Felix. We talked about being a welcoming place, and I know in this world, there's a lot of places that don't feel welcoming to a lot of people, and we don't want anyone from any group to ever feel that way here. So I think that was the message we tried to convey, and I hope it got out. So. Anyone else, Larry?
Yeah, so I do have Angie Sullivan with her hand up, and I'm trying to get the message to her that we're having trouble with the audio. So, to invite her to type something if she wants.
I wonder, have you tried again? Maybe.
You try, yeah.
I just texted her.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
No,
Is that host? It says that the host
no, it's
unmuted me.
still not working.
I will tell you to restart.
It says
That's what
It says that the host
happened.
unmuted me.
Actually worked. You know, that's the joke about IT. They tell you to turn it up and turn it on,
Right,
but
yeah,
that
yeah.
actually,
Well,
I
I
had
mean,
a lot of
it's-
trouble with my computer, and that's what I did. And
It comes from being truthful, you know what I
It
mean?
works.
It works.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
It's the first thing you try.
The old-
Sorry, Angie, we're still having trouble with the audio.
To do that with my ovens now.
The problem is I'm the host of this meeting, so I'm a little concerned about ending out as the host and then
Yes.
coming back in and seeing if the meeting's still there.
Right.
So I'm a little concerned about that.
Yeah, it says that she's not muted. I know, I told her.
Yeah, no, it's not on
Yeah.
their side, it's on our side. Yeah. She said she's trying to type on her phone, it'll be a few minutes, so carry on. Which is fine, we can
Yeah.
Yeah.
move to a different topic and
Yeah.
then come back. if
So we
that's-
go to
yeah.
the discussion with the housing committee regarding the accessory
Yeah.
dwelling units. So I don't know if we want to, I don't know the best, most efficient way to do this. I think it's a pretty straightforward ask, actually.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to maybe summarize your ask and see if we can agree to it and then have Mary Ann draft something? It seems pretty straightforward to me. I remember the legislative intent to the original. I think you guys have a nice summation of it in your. I can read this. Probably makes sense. In anticipation of Irvington's successful participation in the NYSHDR +1 ADU program, the Housing Committee respectfully asked the board to reconsider one particular requirement for awarding a special permit for an accessory apartment under section 224-201 of the Village's zoning code. As one of Westchester's earlier adopters of an ADU ordinance, our permitting process was closely modeled on that of the Village of Hastings, which had been in existence for several years and had proven to be successful in promoting ADUs in that village. One of the provisions our law shared with that of Hastings at the time was the requirement that, quote, the single-family residence for which the accessory apartment special permit is sought must have been in existence in its present size for at least 5 years prior to the application of the special permit, end quote. That provision has since been removed from the requirements for the ADU permit in Hastings. It does not appear in the ADU requirements for either Dobbsbury or Tarrytown, both of which were adopted subsequent to the adoption of Irvington's ADU laws. As an affordable housing option that have dwindled further in Rivertown since 2016, when Irvington's ADU law was originally passed, rationale for inclusion of this requirement seems to be working against the village's long-term goals of increasing the diversity of its housing stock, also providing economic support for resident homeowners. Further, as the benefit of the +1 ADU program is largely based on helping homeowners navigate and afford building code upgrade requirements for meeting applicable health, fire, and safety standards, this particular provision could in effect preclude such changes. For these reasons, the Housing Committee believes that section 224-201E is an impediment to the creation of ADUs in the village and should be removed from the Irvington zoning code. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. I'd be happy to answer any further questions you may have. And then I think we have 2 members from the Housing Committee here tonight. So I don't know if you guys want to speak about it or I think it kind of stands on its own. Obviously, the reason we put it in was so people, in some kind of fairy tale land would be building homes to create, 2-family and single family. First of all, we don't have that much building, so I'm not that worried about it. We also have a cap on them at 50. We've never gotten close to that. I think if we had 5, I'd be happy. So I don't see any huge risk to removing this requirement. I think at the time it made sense when we were going slow and making sure we didn't overwhelm the village and create parking nightmares or whatever, flooding the school district with children or whatever the fears were. In kind of 7 years, we've had less than a handful of people do this. So if we can remove one more, one thing that might be standing in the way, why not? So if anybody else has any comments or questions about this, but it seems like a pretty straightforward action.
When I read the
I'm not too worried about it. Any unintended consequences of this.
I'd also comment that this plus one ADU program is an excellent opportunity for people who are qualified to come and get some aid and some expertise in the development and construction of ADUs. And this, is a large impediment to the success of that program, particularly here in Irving.
Comment?
Yeah, sure.
So I wrote to the Housing Committee about this earlier, but I just got off the phone today with Rhea Mallet, if that's how you say your name, Rhea, who is a trustee in Briarcliff and also founder of Mallet Law, land use and zoning legal practice in Westchester County, specializing in community-based representation of those seeking to protect the environment. I met her because she came to our climate talk. She was a professor of John Nolan at Pace University. She spent many years studying housing law with regard to ADUs and short-term rentals, and she's got a lot of data on how housing laws are changing across the country. And she points to California as being really leaders in the space, 30 years ahead of us, she says, mainly because they have done away with all restrictions on ADUs, and that is the trajectory across the states. Rhode Island is another great example. Every couple of years, they get more and more open. They take away more and more restrictions. And in Irvington, we have quite a few restrictions, actually. It's not just the 5-year building requirement that you have the house be the same size for 5 years. There's also number of square feet, 800. I can tell you I lived in a 600 square foot apartment for many years. So I don't know why it has to be bigger than that. Setbacks, permits that will cost money. You have to have a site professional come in, which is a barrier again for somebody with less money. You have to do your permit every 2 years. All of these are totally unnecessary. I mean, they originally stem from, this kind of thing stems from redlining.
I would actually disagree with that somewhat,
Okay,
because
okay.
a lot of it's safety. Go to Elmsford alone, where people just said, we can rent this out to as many people as we want. They had literally like 60 people living in a 2-bedroom house. There's fire safety. The reason we had the 2-year requirements is so that the building inspector can come in and say, everything's up to code, that kind of thing. Just because you're renting it out and things like that. We didn't want people using like an attic where there's only like stairs that can come down.
Right, you don't want something obscene, you don't want
I wouldn't say it was
abuse.
from redlining, because this is a newer law than that. But,
No, I was
Historically,
just gonna say there was one matter that came up before the planning board where the person had the apartment, I don't know, it came up during the course of review that they had the apartment in the basement, and they said, well, why don't you use that for whatever he was adding on for the children's bedroom? He didn't have an affordable unit at the time, but it had been. And he said, well, I could never have my kid live down there, and described about how insufficient it was. And so, it's not like a possible issue, it's really
right.
a
I
practical
understand we want to protect against abuses, but I do think we need to revisit more of these restrictions with regard to barriers to entry. I mean, because there's also a limit on the total number of permits. So you would think that could be, I mean, also for short-term rentals, which to me, there's a lot of overlap. I mean, I understand ADUs are helping us bring more affordable housing to Irvington, but short-term rentals enable people to stay in their own houses after their kids have left, et cetera. They can rent out when they're away at Christmas, for example, and that's decent income. So, why are there all these barriers? I mean, with the short-term rental, there is a restriction that we already have the requirement that it's your primary home, which I appreciate. You don't want the hotel business coming in and making year-round Airbnbs. That's a disaster. But if it's your primary home, I don't understand why there's so many controls over what you can do with your home when you're away on vacation. And to me, the same 5-year rule is in there. It's the exact same language. I would strike it from both. I don't see any merit in that. And is that all I have to say on that? Yeah, that's really, to me, a bigger picture topic across the board with both of these. I mean, to your point that there's only 5 ADUs. I mean, historically, most people don't want to make ADUs. We have to encourage them to make ADUs. We don't have to create barriers because there's so few people who are willing to come forward and do it anyway. I mean, I called the building department and asked how many Airbnb permits there are out there. There's 2. Okay, so it's too hard. It's too hard to do it, and it's not really a giant threat, is my feeling. So I would encourage you to consider this, making both of these more user-friendly for your residents. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Charlotte.
So I will say that as part of the Plus One ADU program, there is a review as part of the process of the ADU laws of the municipalities that are participating. So that would be Bedford, is one area, and then we are participating at Tewksbury and Hastings. And so we have more or less allowed that to be delegated to the Housing Action Council or Tiffany at Faith Land Use Center on the assumption that they have more data in terms of what other municipalities are doing to see how we line up with other municipalities. I have looked, going through myself, and I'm not a lawyer, going through the ADU regulations of Tarrytown, Dobbsbury, Hastings, and their own, and there are some significant differences. And as I mentioned in the letter, Hastings is the oldest, with the second oldest. Dobbsbury and Tarrytown are much more recent. So there may be more things to look at, but we felt that this 5-year provision was really uncalled for and something that could be addressed very quickly. So that is why we are addressing that.
So I think, the next step is that Mary Ann to draft.
Yeah,
something.
I'll have something in the
This
next
one
day.
should, be easy.
Yeah, this was an easy
Get
one.
rid of something, strike through is easy.
Right.
Strike it for short-term rentals at the same time?
You guys think about short-term rentals.
Well, the way I understand the 5-year rules is to prevent what Charlotte mentioned about companies coming in and building, these kind of, I mean, you've read stories about that. I read a story a few months ago about a block, I forget the city was in where like something like 8 houses on the whole block, and 5 of them got bought by companies that made them year-round Airbnbs and completely destroyed the neighborhood. But if the idea is that's the reason for the 5-year, there's all of those other things in place that could prevent that from ever happening. So in that regard,
I feel like I've heard the same stories. I heard like London, it's really a big issue where people come in about, but
I've stayed in Airbnbs in London.
they're saying that it's driving. It's actually the opposite of making it affordable for people who live there. It's driving. It's driving.
Yeah.
So,
Year-round Airbnb is a bad idea.
yeah. But I mean, to me, we just don't have that much building either.
Yeah.
It's not like we have all this land that we're worried about.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's not a big issue to me. I just
Yeah,
haven't thought about
I
it.
agree. I mean, I think if you have other protections in there, then we don't have this issue of the year-round Airbnb. And I do think that, again, making it affordable for people to stay, people who have, I know plenty of people who have children who are being out. I think having discussions about whether to sell or to stay, I think that if that facilitates that and it doesn't make it, we don't have this other issue of, Airbnb and people coming in, buying all the homes and making it really unaffordable, even more unaffordable in Irvington. I think I would also look at doing both.
It's fine with me.
No, I think it makes sense to do both.
I'm not sure the housing committee looked at that second issue, so,
We have not looked at short-term rentals closely. We were not involved really in writing the law.
right.
So right now, we're more focused on the ADUs since there is a program available to encourage them.
If I may, we have no position on that particular
Right.
issue. And it was suggested by one of you that I might provide some historical perspective on how we got some of the laws we do have on the books. A lot of this came about when Greenberg redid its tax structure. And there was a tremendous increase in taxes on long-term residents, long-term homeowners. So we were trying to find ways that would allow people to remain in their homes, consistent with our long-term goal of providing more housing opportunities anyway. And this seemed to be pretty much made to order to have the accessory dwelling units. Some of the laws reading back, what we were trying to do was find not exactly the path of least resistance, but to find viable plans that would not generate tremendous resistance. When I look at the in-law apartments, you couldn't have a separate entrance, you couldn't even have a separation within the house itself. But again, we were trying to build a base of support for the notion that people needed additional dwelling units. There were lots of levels of needs in this community, from adult children, parents, living caretakers, to just simply providing additional opportunities for housing. And it was not that long ago. George Latimer described affordable housing as a moral issue, and we believe it remains so. And we encourage, and I've always appreciated the village standing with that mission to try to provide affordable housing as much as we can, knowing that we don't own tracts of vacant land that can be developed. We've tried multiple things to do, and we've been somewhat successful in some things, but certainly having accessory dwelling units is a big help.
Yeah, and I think too, when we wanted to get something passed, we were told there's gonna be huge backlash against it. And I think I would say it was a minor backlash, if anything. But the 50, we kind of said, we'll put that in. We never thought we'd even get close to it, but we said if we did, and we were so lucky, that we'd look to raise the number, because it's just, we could always do that. So, to me, it's, I wish we were closer to 50 than 5, but it is what it is, I guess.
Again, as far as short-term rentals are concerned, I'm just a little leery that there hasn't been the level of research or
Thinking on it. It's a different set of
input.
issues.
But it's different than what's come up, and I'm not sure that they should be grouped together in one.
And we could always.
And partly, the accessory apartment law was sort of to encourage them, accessory apartments is a useful thing. I think the short-term rental law came in for a different reason, not so much to encourage short-term rentals, but to control them. So it started from a different place. So I think your point is good, Larry. I think you should maybe think on it a little bit more.
Well, can the housing
Right.
committee look at the issue so that we have more information? Is that possible, or is that beyond your scope of?
I'm sorry.
Can we look at the short-term rental issue?
The housing committee has so far declined to really take it up. It raises very different issues. Yeah. And while we're sympathetic to the fact that, generating income for homeowners is important, we don't see this as directly linked. The committee as a whole has not, to this point, seen it as directly linked to our mission.
Okay. Fair answer.
Why don't you bring it to a work session, like in November, for
Yeah.
example? So at least you can have an opportunity to look at the law and the full law and
Yeah.
and see what other restrictions are there.
Should I go ahead though and draft?
I think on the other
one.
issue, it sounds like
I can draft that for the next meeting.
for the ADUs.
For the accessory apartments.
Yes. Yeah, I'm talking about for the
Right.
short-term
The other one,
rentals.
I would suggest that there be, think about it a little bit.
Why don't
more
we
in
bring
your
it to-
discussion, But there's no reason
Yeah.
it couldn't be 2 separate laws. We do
Yeah.
this one and then think about that.
So we can vote on, we can vote, well, not at the next meeting, but we can vote in this.
You'll have the local law next
then
We
week.
can
the
call
council.
for the local law.
Call for the local law with a public hearing, which will be at the second meeting in November.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But for the other issue, for the short-term rentals, you said we can talk about that in a work
Bring it at
session.
a November work session, I
Okay.
think
Yes.
is probably reasonable in that.
Okay.
You'll have an opportunity with Mary Ann here, you can have the law out and understand the full set of provisions
Yeah,
there.
where it
Yeah,
came
that
from.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Larry, has anyone typed anything at home? Since we're out of delay.
So one question, which I responded to in writing, but I think is worth doing it live as well, is what's the reasoning behind the shooting range in the middle of the village? So just, quickly typing back, it's replacing an outdoor range, which is adjacent to the Irvington Reservoir right now. And I think the facility itself will be professionally designed with all the appropriate equipment and safeguards, of course, so that, being in the basement of the new facility will be, you may not know it's there, and
And only
it's-
used by the police.
And exactly, and it's not
It
a
won't be
public
where
facility.
people will bring their guns in to.
And only used by our police. I know that was a question that came up as to how much the outdoor range is used by other agencies, and it's at least in the past several years, is very infrequent. I don't think it's even been used by another agency in the past several years.
Can I just piggyback on a moment based on something that some people said to me at the open house?
Yeah.
So I don't, just so people understand, because I'm not sure that they know this, that if you have a police force who are armed, they have to go through mandatory training and mandatory testing on a regular basis. Part of that is we, as the village, have to provide them with the time and avenue to do that. So currently, to do that, sometimes there's the outdoor range, but sometimes they have to go to one of the two. There's one in White Plains, right?
The county. The
Yeah.
county's about,
Right,
yeah.
and that I'm sorry, and that involves overtime,
Yes.
and that involves the expenses all attached to that. And one of the main reasons for this is to ultimately save money and save time and allowing the officers to do what they have to do. There's no way around them having to do this, because some people are asking like, well, why are we supporting them shooting guns? I'm a Moms Demand Action gun sense candidate. I'm not taking a position on guns here. We have a police force. The police force needs guns, right? And they have to have certain certifications and certain trainings. We're trying to do it in a way that is most efficient and most financially responsible for the village. Someone asked if they can get on the website the amount of money we spend every year on overtime for the police officers to go do the training, because they wanted to judge whether it was a real amount or whether it was like, oh, it's $100 a year or something. And I said, I don't know, Katie, is that something you can pull or for the?
Yeah, I can work with the police chief to kind of narrow it
Okay.
down, yeah. we can
Yeah,
get
to at
that.
least get like a really good estimate, if not the actual numbers.
Mhm.
That would be good, because I don't think people appreciate that that's why this is part of the system. It's not, it's designed to be financially beneficial for the village and to make it easier for our police officers to do what they have to do.
I just want to add, though, that I do still think, because I've had this conversation now with a lot of people, that people do also disagree. There are many police departments that do not have their own shooting range, right? So I think people have a fundamental disagreement with the actual need to have it. So I think I want to be respectful of that view,
Sure.
because I
So
think people have that
I'll add a
view.
little more context. Before 9/11, Camp Smith was a training facility that every police department in Westchester County and beyond used. It's in Peekskill, Camp Smith. After 9/11, it became federalized, so they could no longer train there. So that really took away, they had, on a say, when I was in the sheriff's, that's where we trained. They have probably like 250 bays, it's outdoors. And then same thing for shotguns. So you had, almost unlimited range time, and you just had to sign up basically and tell them you were coming. Now, the only places that have them are the county, which I think has like 12 bays. One precinct in Yonkers off Grassy Spring Road has, I think, 6 bays. Rye has, I think, 4 bays or 6 bays. And that's really the only ones I know of other than our outdoor range, which is why it's so hard to get range time. So sometimes you can't even get there. And if someone can't train, I think it's twice a year you have to qualify. If you don't, you can't be armed, which means you can't be, you can't work. So it's a strange issue, but it's a real issue, and that's why we have our outdoor range. And I don't think anyone outside of Greenberg has used it anyway, but it's almost only Irvington recently. But it's a real issue that if you're going to train, you have to train a lot, and it's hard to get time at the ranges because there aren't that many.
I just want to add, because I do think this is an issue that is coming up again and again, but, obviously Ardsley, Hastings, so other departments don't have it. So I think we have to be mindful that people have that resistance to us.
But those municipalities have to pay the overtime
They
costs and
do.
everything,
They
and it
do.
goes with having
Yeah.
it somewhere else.
What's the underlying, why wouldn't we, because it's $200,000 on a $18 million project? Or?
Yeah, no, I think the cost is probably one of it, and I think people don't understand the need, right? So that's.
And to
the
me, think
intention.
about too, if you have someone if you have an officer who isn't good at shooting, and we have I think 3 or 4 firearms instructors that are police officers in Irvington. Think about someone who's not confident, and they say, hey, I'd love to go after I get off my shift and go to the range. You couldn't do that. You're gonna say, can we go to Valhalla, and we have to book the time, and then, but just even kind of more informally than to me, that's a nice benefit to have. Like if we could have a fire training center here too, I'd love it. It's harder obviously, but to give them a tool like that to me is great. But I understand what people would say, why do we have to have one? And if you go back 60 years ago, every department, I bet we had one somewhere downstairs here, had their own range before people knew that, it was lead and it was really bad. And to have the air exchange, you couldn't do it. Like almost I think every police department had one in the basement for the most part, because they just like to go practice. But they were inhaling lead fumes all the time.
Thankfully, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thankfully, we've moved on from that.
Yes.
Could I make a comment on that?
Sure. If you don't mind, yeah.
So I just like to say, first of all, I'm kind of on the same page as Mitch by saying I'm a March for Your Lives person. I'm not a pro-gun person. I also want the police force to be trained. I understand both, I understand that. So I'm not, that's your job. I want you to be trained. What I just want to come up here and say as an advocate for Main Street again is that shooting range is probably, it sounds like it's needed. It's a good idea, but does it need to be on Main Street? Like I'm thinking location, location, location. The Main Street is the heart of our village. It's our community. Like let's put things there that old people can do, young people can do, middle-aged people can do.
Well,
like
it's the basement of the firehouse, so it's not.
well, regardless, but I'm not in favor of the firehouse either. So, so I just wanted to say that. The other thing, so Brian, you brought up that, there's all these closed, unavailable shooting ranges. It sounds like it's a great opportunity for communities to come together and let's build together a shooting range that Dobbs Ferry can use, Hastings can use. We can share it where it's not, too far away that it causes a burden of overtime for people to drive to. So it just seems like there's opportunity here to solve a bigger problem and share the solution. Thank you.
Anyone else, Homer?
Yeah. Okay. Angie Sullivan. Two points. I was able to get a lot of my questions answered on Saturday. I was mostly concerned about the lack of details about how long the bond would be for. I hear 25 years. Also, how long demolition construction would take. I hear 3 years. This feels like such a big ask for residents financially, and it will affect the quality of life for us village folks. It makes me concerned that there are people finding out about this huge ask the month before the election and details weren't included in the ads. My open question is about the investment into the municipal theater. If we were going to use our tax dollars for theater expansion, I think we should be provided with more information about the paid theater manager's plan to ensure increased revenues to hopefully contribute to our village needs.
As a former theater commissioner and as the current liaison, I can tell you that the whole idea of having a Main Street fronted theater with a ticket area and a concession area is all geared towards more revenue. It's more geared towards more, I almost said game day revenue, more event day revenue, and also allowing for different kinds of acts to come in that wouldn't come in otherwise because of the way the theater is arranged now. So it's not being done for aesthetic reasons, it's being done for business reasons.
Jeffrey Glick, hi trustees, I think this is the case, but wanted to double check. The cost of acquiring 84 Main Street
I'm
is,
sorry, can I just interrupt? There's one other really important thing. A
Yes,
major
go ahead.
piece of the theater thing is that it's not in compliance with the ADA. Right now, the bathrooms, getting there, all these things, and that's one of the main reasons to redo the theater is to make the theater compliant with the ADA. This is a 1902 building, so obviously there's all kinds of issues, and if we're going to do construction on it, it's an opportunity to make right, just the way the new HVAC system is green, and you're taking these opportunities to provide the things that we expect now in a modern building, from ADA compliance to environmental thought behind things and things like that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I realized I didn't answer the question fully. I'm really
great,
sorry.
thank you. I think this is the case, but wanted to double check. The cost of acquiring 84 Main Street is included fully in the 18.2 million, correct? And the answer is yes, it is. Also from Jeffrey, per the rules Mitchell is citing, how often is a police gun certification and training required? I think, Brian,
Yeah, I think I know it's annual, but I think it might be every 6 months. And you have to qualify on both anything you use. So I know we have different types of guns, the two main ones being shotguns and handguns. So you have to be qualified on both of those. Then if you have a backup weapon, you also you have to be qualified on that. It's typically a range of, it's a course of 50 shots at different distances. I think it's 25 yards, 10 yards, and then there's a bunch of up close stuff that you do one-handed, with each hand, one-handed, supported, one-handed, unsupported, but it's typically 50 shot course.
And
That's the minimum too, by the way.
Can I ask a question on that? So do you self-certify yourself, or does someone
No,
have to
that's
watch?
right. You have to have firearms instructors that certify you. And then you actually have the silhouette, you see in the movies that comes back and goes forth, and they actually count them up. You have to have a certain amount. I think you have to have, I guess you have to get 45 out of 50 into the silhouette, otherwise you don't pass. You have to,
So do you bring, is that an expense to bring someone in to?
nope, we
watch
have
that?
our own certified.
On staff?
Yes, we have
For
3.
other policemen?
Yes,
Okay.
they go to training for that. You get certified. We also have certified armorers that can repair the guns.
okay, this is from Addison. I don't have the last name. How many police weapons discharges occur annually in the field that might inform the need for a range?
They have to go through.
I'm not
the
sure
same-
that informs the need, though,
Right,
given
'cause
the
it's
need for certification.
The same, the
Right.
training and certification has nothing to do with how often the officer uses the
Right.
weapon, right? So,
We hope it's zero.
right, exactly.
Okay, and the next question was withdrawn, so it had to do with what the total cost of the bond was, including principal and interest, but that's posted to the website, but it's 32.5 million over the 25 years with interest. Is there I'm sorry, Angie Sullivan, is there a response to my concern about the details not being included in the ads? I guess I should phrase it as a question. None of the bad news was provided in the village-sponsored ads. Why is the burden put on residents to take time to come to the open house when the village spends money on ads, website mailings, etc.? Seems like poor communication, in my opinion.
What
What was the bad news?
I'm not sure, but I think that
Is the total cost included in the mailer?
the total principal and interest over the life, no, that wasn't included.
Okay, so maybe
But
that.
maybe, yeah, but that, remember, there was a balancing, I'm not trying to justify it, but I'm suggesting that there was a real balancing act between squeezing as much information onto that mailer as you could, or overdoing it, and trying to keep it clear for people. So, we tried to outline the issues as we saw them, but if people wanted to, dig deeper on certain things, like find out total cost over, those are financial things, we have all the schedules posted.
I think the other thing is we did have a timing issue, right? We had to sort of take certain steps in order to put this up for a vote, which we felt was important to do. We
And
felt
to do it
like,
on election day to get the most turnout possible.
right, so that we felt that it was important to do that. I do think it is very difficult, timing wise, it's very difficult to get residents to pay attention in the summer. And I do think that's an unfortunate, like, you can't force people to pay attention. You can say it, but it just doesn't happen in the summer. But I do think the intention was to provide enough time to let people be informed, and then to ultimately, the residents are going to pay this bill, right? All of us included. So I think the idea is people really have to decide if they have to balance, right? We didn't say we're doing X. We're saying here's a plan, and you guys need to decide, basically. I mean, I think that's fair, right? Like, I think, and we did have a timing issue, and you can't force people to pay attention in the summer. I talked to many people about this in the summer, and no one listened. So I don't know what else to say about that.
So Angie's comment was going back to what you first wrote, which were the two pieces of information that she had to dig for, which was the 25-year life of the bond and the 3-year time of demolition and construction. But none of that was included in the original mailer, which I'm not arguing that it certainly wasn't there, and maybe could have been, but
Right.
Fair point.
We certainly weren't trying to hide anything.
No, it was really a juggling act between.
Right, but that's a fair point, because
Yeah.
I think, 3 years is
Absolutely.
a long time, and it is Main Street, so it's a fair point.
Yep.
You could have done better.
Anything else, Larry? Otherwise, we'll go on to the one everyone's really excited about, I think, the lease improvement. We can go on to that while anyone's typing, but we'll go on to approval of lease agreement with JAP Management Corporation.
Yeah, this is just a renewal of an existing lease that we have for storage. It's really excess storage for the Parks and Recreation Department.
It's the highlight of every year.
Yeah.
Resolved to authorize the village administrator to sign an agreement with JAP Management Corporation for rental garage number 1 located at 11 South Ecker Street, Irvington, New York, 10523, from November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2024, at a rent of $200 per month. I'll make the motion. I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is approval of a revocable license agreement with the beneficial owner of 90 Fargo Lane. Marianne, do you want to?
Yeah, this
Seems
is,
technical.
yeah, it was a matter that came before the planning board. That's the house at 90 Fargo Lane is has an electrical panel in front of the house for whatever reason, and it's not terribly attractive. And the best way they thought to deal with it was to put plantings around it, that were approved, recommended and approved by the village's landscape architect. But those plants are going to be in the village right of way, not the paved street, but the right of way between the curb and the house. And so they need a license agreement to do that. And that's what this is. It says, that it gives them permission to go in and plant and maintain the things. It insures the village. The village is named as an additional insured on the homeowner's policy. They fully indemnify the village. And I've read through the agreement. It's I think it's fair.
It seems pretty low risk as well to the village.
Yeah, there's really no risk to the village. Yeah.
Anyone have any questions on this?
If you want to know what plants, I think they were skip laurels, 3 skip
I read
laurels.
over it and I said, oh, Marianne will explain to us in the meeting.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know what this is. And I was like, if it was something important, we probably would have heard about it.
Right.
3 skip laurels.
And I kept saying, what's the term? Beneficial owner? Are they being nice or are they receiving a benefit?
Yeah, I don't understand, and they've, well, here they have the name. I don't know, the whole application was by somebody else, ETA Fargo or something, but I guess the owner is Sarah Paganos.
Resolved to approve a revocable license agreement with the beneficial owner of 90 Fargo Lane to permit the installation and maintenance of certain landscaping along and within the Fargo Lane right-of-way owned by the village, and to authorize the mayor to execute said license. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is removal of an Irvington Fire Company member. Resolved to remove Oscar Pendoida as a member of the Irvington Fire Company. I'll make a motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Thanks for your service. Reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. Larry?
Yep, I got an update from the building department. As you might recall, they've been working on getting this new cloud permit system up and running. They got the old system up, which was apparently not working for a while, and so they can migrate the data off of the old system to the new system. The training on the permit portal is done, and they're starting training on the violation portal. Then after that, the board's portal. It says hopefully by December, the new permit and violation portal will be up and running. So the planning board has seen an unusually large number of projects for this time of year. That's it.
Thank you. Larry?
Just one thing, thanks to the beautification committee, they started working hard today on plantings along Main Street for our seasonal celebrations.
Excellent.
The theater had a sunset cinema delayed 1 week by the weather, but still at Main Street School on Friday, and it was a huge success. Lots of people, beautiful night, kids coming and playing and everything. I don't have the total attendance yet. I'll learn that at the next commission meeting. But multiple people were going up to the theater folks working there, the volunteers, and saying, do this more often. Why is this just once in October? So they're looking into doing this as much as possible. There was a raffle, there was glow sticks for the kids and stuff. It was just a really great event. So I wanted to just spotlight on that because that really was adding to the village. As far as the library goes, I literally just came from the library meeting before this meeting. A couple of interesting things that I took from that meeting are, one is circulation has now returned to the pre-pandemic levels. So we're at a place now where things are, at least in the library, pretty much back to normal. And their programs are doing really, really well. September is traditionally a down month, and yet somehow there were still over 550 people participating in a total of something 35 events, if my math is right. So, and then that doesn't even include when outside groups use the library for meetings. So they're doing really well. The library is having their upcoming book sale, which I should have had the date ready, but I'll have it in 1 second. It's October 26th, 27th, and 28th, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So make sure you get over there. It's a double thing. You get to get really good books at a good price, and you're also helping to support the library. So that's an important thing as well. And yeah, that's what I got.
I have just one more thing.
Sure.
I'm sorry. While the housing committee is here, I just wanted to comment that there was a nice housing committee turnout at the Lula conference meeting. 3 Fridays, of which we've now done 2 of them. We had 6 people there to learn about land use and to brainstorm and try to figure out how to get more multifamily housing in the village.
Great. I'm sorry. Arlene?
So I'm just gonna, from the Green Policy Task Force, I just wanna read a few things from them about leaves. So I'm just gonna read what Yasina sent me. She couldn't read it herself. We're used to seeing leaves being taken away. However, trees are not meant to drop their leaves that curve for pickup, but rather to cover the soil, to provide it with ecological benefits. Fall leaf drop is a form of self-protection of plants, as well as invaluable nutrition and shelter. Leaves are meant to remain under the trees to protect its roots and barks. In different stages of decomposition, they provide much needed nutrients to the roots and the soil. They serve as free mulch to suppress weeds in the garden. They help retain soil moisture, insulate soil, and protect plants, reducing the need for watering in dry spells and reducing runoff. And leaves serve as a vital resource for the habitat. It's not possible to leave leaves on the ground or a portion of them in lieu of blowing them or removing leaves with gas-powered blowers. We encourage the use of brooms, rakes, or electric battery-operated leaf blowers to keep porches or walkways clear. This will help people transition away from gas-powered leaf blowers. Leaves can be mulched. Mulching the leaves on the lawn has its many advantages. It reduces noise and greenhouse gases. It also enhances the health of our yard. The shredded mulched leaf material creates valuable compost, which enriches the topsoil. Leaf mulching also spreads less dust and contaminants into the air and saves you time and money. And more information can be found at the website Leave Leaves Alone. Also, GPTL is encouraging people not to discard Halloween pumpkins in the trash. They can bring them to Main Street School for food scrap drop-off or composting. That's pumpkins that are not heavily painted, have plastic, wax, or glitter decorations. Those should be placed in the trash. So all of my daughter's glitter pumpkins have to go in the trash, unfortunately. Okay, and then just want to read from the highway, from DPW, the highway department. They planted 7 trees in the Main Street area. The Barney Brook FEMA project is nearly completed. They removed 5 hazardous trees from the village, and work on the DPW building project is active, and they procured e-waste plus container with the assistance of Westchester County. And then my final report is that the Bulldog Gallery auction closed last night, and the total for raised during the auction from the auction is 16,607. Hold on, sorry, it's a pretty good number. $16,795. And the Bulldog Gallery is talking about a possible, if people will lend us their bulldogs, maybe having an event. We'll remove them before Halloween, so that they don't get, they don't become part of the shaving cream fund. But maybe for the November 4th event that the Rivertown Chambers of Commerce is doing is maybe having as many of them on display by Village Hall or something to have a fun event. And then everyone's really excited to do this again next year, now that we've gone through a lot of bumps and bruises.
Two questions, well, two comments. One is I couldn't afford to buy the ones I wanted to. My wife just wouldn't let me keep on bidding, so that was great. And this money goes where?
So the money, so thank you for asking that, because 25% of those proceeds are going to go to the artists, which I think is very cool, supporting local artists. And then the other remaining amount is going for sort of beautification events to kind of Main Street, basically, to do events on Main Street maybe and encourage and just do things for the businesses to kind of develop the downtown area kind of corridor.
Great.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. All right, village administrator's report.
Oh, actually, nothing tonight.
Clerk treasurer's report.
Larry and I actually had a meeting with our financial advisors today in preparation for the ban that we have. This is the 7.5 for already approved capital projects, not counting the firehouse. So we're going to do an official statement this year, which is essentially just more financial disclosures, which allows more people to like broker dealers to bid on the ban offerings to kind of encourage more competition and hopefully get a better interest rate. And then also I got the draft financials, so I'm working on the management discussion analysis piece, and then we're close to a final product.
Great, congrats. Village attorney's report.
No.
Public comment, please.
Just curious if I could get here in time with my kids.
Just in time.
It was very well done. If you can't beat us on Zoom, join us in person.
You know, I've never been in person, so this is fun, and I actually don't know everybody's, so this is cool. I know you guys are trying to get to the next meeting, so I'll be brief. I know you guys don't have enough people commenting on the leaf blower, so I wanted to make sure you hit your quota. So, you know, I wasn't here when this was all heavily debated back in 2020, so I apologize for the lack of context for what I'm about to say, but just reading through the comments and then sort of like living as someone with a larger property that, you know, has, you know, like everyone, you know, working class landscapers who have the equipment they own and not the luxury necessarily to buy new equipment. I just wonder whether some kind of compromise is possible where we at least allow the leaf blowers to be used during, you know, cleanup and in the spring. And I know, you know, there's a concern, well, if we delay it, you know, well, then we'll just be sitting here the next year. And I understand that. I think, you know, my only retort to that would be to say, look, you know, gas cars aren't banned, but electric vehicles have this growth trajectory and gas cars have this trajectory. So the market will figure this out. It's just, again, as someone with a larger property, I just don't know how this will work. And I know some of my neighbors have similar concerns. I was surprised reading through the letters how passionate people were to ban these things. It's as if it's the world's biggest pestilence. And I know they have horrible emissions. So let me acknowledge that. It just, you know, that they create so much noise. I mean, we have a train station that runs through town. I mean, you know, we have the bell that rings. I mean, that these things are the things that are, you know, keeping you up at night. I was a little surprised by that, but I know everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So that's all I wanted to say, just hoping that maybe, you know, I assume it was brought up because there are some concerns that maybe we're moving a little faster than is feasible, which is kind of really what I'm trying to say, that we're maybe not quite ready. It's like we'd all like to be, you know, driving EVs, but we're not there yet. So I feel like this is a small, in a way, kind of like that. That's all I wanted to share. Just too much to type. So thanks for letting me come in at 5 minutes before.
We appreciate you coming in person. It's like a special guest appearance.
I love to. These meetings always conflict with my, you know, I've got 2 young kids. This is like bath time and bedtime. So
we understand. Thanks very much.
Can I just say something on it?
Sure. Got a bedtime?
This is not not at bedtime, I'm past that. Not a lot, but I know that it's been discussed that people will sometimes purchase the electric leaf blowers. Sorry, I can turn that off. Either like a set of neighbors will purchase one and keep it charged in a shed, or an individual homeowner will purchase one and keep it charged in the shed for their landscapers to use, because it can be a hardship, and it can be an expense for some landscapers to have to purchase all new equipment, but that seems to be a somewhat viable solution, at least in the interim, while people do more fully embrace the electric options. And some places, I guess, you know, for landscapers who go to different communities, there are some communities that still allow the gas powered, so they'd have to be taking two along, and there's problems, I guess, with keeping it charged throughout the day. But in this way, you know, they come to your property, they know where it is, they use it, they leave it, it charges until next time. And you can use it in between as well, yes, so.
Yeah, and I think that was one, I mean, the 3 years, I think there was two main benefits. One was to have technology get better over 3 years, and then the other one was the thought. I think we talked to some landscapers, and they said they replaced about a third of their equipment every year. So we kind of said, in 3 years,
right,
you could have as much, you know, you could have a lot of electric equipment, and not all. So that was part of the thought process as well over the 3 years.
And some changing practices also, right?
Exactly right. Yeah, I think too, I think to me, it's still the biggest disconnect on the entire thing is the expectation that every homeowner wants a pristine lawn and a pristine driveway and a pristine walk. I've talked to my landscaper literally dozens of times that they don't have to blow anything off my front lawn, especially after they do. My favorite is when they do love them and leave them. I finally convince them to do that, and then they start blowing them away. And I'm like, this is not what this isn't it. You can just leave them. And they're like, but you don't want leaves. I'm like, no, I don't care. They're just little tiny leaves on my lawn. They're good for it. So I think there is a bit of a disconnect. I think there are some people that absolutely say, I don't want to see a piece of, you know, grass on my lawn or my driveway in July. On the lawn either, I guess. But and I've seen, like, I think I was walking with Larry one day, and there's someone actually blowing 3 leaves, and I went and I picked them up, and I said, "You're done now." Like, it was like so much easier to pick up the 3 leaves and put them on into the, you know. But it was just kind of comical that that's just the way they do it, you know. And it just literally, it was hard because one of them kept getting away, and then you could get, it was very comical, but it was fun just to go pick them up and show them that old school mentality of picking up leaves.
When they're blowing leaves outside my window, I can't do blowing leaves. It's just so loud. I just can't.
It's definitely ones right next year.
Yeah.
I was gonna comment on it too. I was just gonna say, thank you so much. I listened to your work session. I feel like you guys have gone through a lot of intensive conversation around this. There's been so many angles and dimensions and so much. It was just an incredibly thoughtful conversation you guys have had, and I applaud you for sticking to it, because I know it's not easy, and I'm just very grateful.
And I think too, there are other examples of where it's worked. I mean, the largest thing is Pasadena, California, is a city that doesn't allow them. I think Larchmont here in Westchester, you know, so it's not, you know, yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be change in behavior, which is always hard. But, you know, I think in a couple of years, it'll be much more the norm than the exception. Just the way it was, you know, 20 years ago when no one used them either. So, any other public comment, Larry?
No.
I don't have any action items.
No, we have some questions to
Yeah.
get back on.
Larry, do you get the feeling that people who wanted to ask questions or make comments about the firehouse remotely got their questions and comments in?
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I just feel badly that people weren't able to.
yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean,
We'll have one more shot.
yeah, I mean,
Right,
we
we'll
went
have one
through-
more shot, and I would just encourage anyone,
Yeah.
please write at least, because there's going to be 3 weeks between now and our next meeting.
Yeah.
right?
And also the meeting, the next meeting, right?
Open
The
house on Wednesday.
October 18th.
Right.
What time and where?
7 p.m.
7 o'clock, 7 to 8:30 here, well, upstairs in this building.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just asking so people,
Yes.
in
yeah.
case they know,
Good
want to
prompting.
know, yeah.
So we no longer have an executive session regarding collective bargaining, so that's canceled. So I will just make a motion to adjourn if I've got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice turn.
Good to see some old faces in there.
My advice to council, right?
Yes.
What is advice to council?